Hi, and welcome to Ask Cam. This is our rescheduled Black History Month live stream, which if you are a sort of keen follower of our live streams, you will have sort of maybe caught up that we previously had invited Ruth to come and speak to us, but unfortunately due to technical difficulties we had to sort of cut it short. But we were so keen that we managed to speak to Ruth and get her story, that we've decided to sort of we're trying again. So even though it's no longer Black History Month, we're hoping that now we will be able to get the interview that we were hoping for in October. Unfortunately, this live stream just seems to be plagued with technical issues, and Remy, our digital inclusion and engagement officer, and also a member of our EDI working group, was due to conduct this interview, and you would have seen that she did sort of start conducting the previous interview. But unfortunately, due to technical issues, Remy is unable to get her camera up and running, and therefore I'm going to step into her shoes today. So I'm hoping that I've lost Ruth on my stream briefly. I'm hoping that's not a long-term technical issue. Ruth, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. I've got a brief moment of panic there. But wonderful. So thank you so much, Ruth, for joining us. Can you sort of first and foremost, can you sort of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
All right. Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ruth Mbera. I live in Oldham, Greater Manchester, of course, but I'm originally from Malawi.
Okay.
And I do catering. I run a catering business here in Manchester, catering for events. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Wonderful. So I think it would be great to hear a little bit about your journey, and kind of, as you say, sort of you were originally from Malawi and you came to Manchester. Sort of what was that journey like for you, and how has that sort of worked out?
Oh, yeah, it's been a very difficult journey. Yeah. But yeah, because when I set off to come here, I came as a student. I was a law student. So My parents had sent me to come and study here. Unfortunately, nobody had prepared me for the challenges that like maybe what people have access to these days, like internet, what to prepare, what to expect in a foreign country as a student and all that.
Yeah.
So I came in, everything was a shock. Everything was, of course, different culture, different way of doing things as a foreigner as well. So there were so many challenges. So I started off taking a gap year, which led to another gap year and a gap year, until I had to give up on my law degree. And yeah, I had to give up on my law degree. But in those difficult times, while I was waiting, the only thing that kept me going is my passion, which is passion for food, cooking. I love cooking. So I find it helps with my mental health. It helps with all other areas, even socializing with others, because food brings people together. So I kept cooking, I kept doing that. And I kept saying, one day I'll run my own restaurant. One day I'll run my own business. And I would buy pots. I used to buy catering equipment, industrial pots, like one day. And my friend used to laugh at me. It's like, where are you going to get all this? What are you going to do with all these pots? And like, one day it's going to happen. So that's how it was, like the whole journey from coming as a student to now running my own business.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, such sort of tenacity to kind of keep going and keep sort of like really pulling through with that, sort of keeping that passion alive. And it's so great that has like now turned out to be a fantastic business for you. Yeah. So obviously we scheduled this originally as a Black History Month live stream. So we're no longer in Black History Month, but I think it would still be really interesting to hear from you about what does Black History Month mean to you, and what sort of do you feel like its significance is in the work that you do?
Okay, yeah, Black History Month means a lot to me in a way that this is a time we get a chance to showcase what contributions we are bringing to the community, the gifts, the talents that people have that are often overlooked. And especially nowadays that we are in a society where, we're trying to live together in peace, living together as one people. So it's important that even in the workplaces, in our businesses, in our schools, people are aware and have an understanding of certain cultures, of certain behaviors, how Black people behave, what they like to eat, what they like to do. Just that having that understanding really helps how people can relate with each other. So its significance is that in that way that we feel like our voices are being heard. Having that month alone is a chance whereby, for the 22 years I've been in this country, I've seen that there's a significant change, because where things were not talked about openly, people are now able to talk about it openly. Everyone is being included. Everyone is trying to be understood. So it really means a lot in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting that you say. I think there's so much to gain from kind of celebrating different people, different cultures, different things that everyone brings to society. And I think it's so wonderful to sort of take Black History Month as an opportunity to do that. I think, and that's obviously that's a sort of, I guess, thinking about the positive side of Black History Month, and that obviously it's exactly what it should be, a celebration. However, I think it's obviously important to recognise that while we are hopefully moving in the right direction, I think, unfortunately, discrimination still very much is sort of at play and exists in our society. We see plenty of it here at Citizens Advice Manchester, unfortunately. Not within Citizens Advice Manchester, obviously, but unfortunately people coming to us for support. So do you think that being Black has introduced barriers in your journey? And if so, what sort of barriers have you faced along the way?
Yeah, they're definitely. Thank you for raising that important point. It's really one of the challenges that, much as we are trying to be heard, much as there's that. But yeah, there's so many barriers. And personally, the barriers that I've faced is especially in nowadays where we have technology. You can be talking to someone, whether it's a business proposal or the time I was trying to get a job through work. Ruth obviously is an English name, and you pass something like that. And then when you turn up as a Black person, the moment they see the color of your skin is like, oh, so it's you. So I'm thinking, so who did you think you were talking to? And it's like, oh, how did you learn to, how come you speak English? So I'm thinking, okay, so if language can be a barrier, but okay, to my advantage, because I can speak English, it's like, sometimes it's the accent. If you speak to someone over the phone, they quickly pick up like, oh, this is not one of us. But if it's just through email and all that, that can be a barrier, because you can see that there's success, the door is about to open. But once they now see you face to face, it's like, oh no. So you kind of shake your head like, so everything was okay on paper until you see the person, and then it changes everything. But you were convinced that I was about to deliver. Yeah, so it's language, and then there's that mentality that people just have this lack of education, thinking you can't deliver. There's prejudice. People, that's what I was saying earlier, that it's important to get to learn certain cultures and understand, because once people have a certain mindset that, oh, this is how Black people are, this is what Black people do, then it just blocks all those opportunities that are there. And we fail to grow. Maybe someone who can be of of value to your team or to your business or to your company, you end up letting them go because you just think, oh, they are Black. Yeah. So there's a lot I can list, but I'm just talking about some of the things that I've experienced, like, the shock that people see. Sometimes even in my own business, I've got customers they'll be like, we are looking for your manager, we are looking for the owner of Ruth Super Kitchen. I'm like, I'm Ruth Super. I said, no, we are talking about the real owner. I'm like, I don't know which real owner you were expecting. This is the owner. So yeah, it's one of those challenges that just people think there's a limitation placed on us, or I should say, that there's a certain barrier or there's a certain line we can't cross. There's certain places we shouldn't be seen. Some of the rules are not clearly spoken, but they are like unspoken rules. Yeah.
I think it's as you say, it's a real shame that is kind of that sort of prejudice exists, that people can't see past, or sort of can't sort of make the connection that you could possibly be the super Ruth behind Ruth's Super Kitchen. And I think it's really important for us to sort of talk about that more, and to talk about the sort of, I guess, unconscious biases that live within some people's minds, that sort of maybe, it's not deliberate to be thinking, oh, it couldn't possibly be you, but also like that idea that you can't conceive that person, like, you can't make the connection. So like, thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate that we're asking you here about to sort of share your experiences that have been uncomfortable, and we're really grateful for you to come and share that with us in order to kind of hopefully make progress in some way, shape, or form. I should also just at this point take a moment to say that if anyone does have any questions for Ruth, if you're sort of tuning in live, please do feel free to drop them in the comments box, and hopefully we can kind of answer some questions for you as well. So I guess also another question I had there, Ruth, was sort of thinking about the barriers that maybe you've faced, and then sort of what advice would you give to somebody who is, either coming to England now or trying to just start their own business now, those kinds of things. Like, what sort of things would you, what advice would you give to people in your same situation, in order to sort of try and overcome some of those barriers?
For me, it's gain knowledge. One of the things, as I was saying earlier, probably 22 years ago, we didn't have the access to information the way we do now. But at the click of, just go on Google, find the information that is there. Most of the things that what I find challenging about people in the Black community, they don't like reading. It's most of the time hearsay, or so and so said, my auntie said, oh, the people you meet when you arrive in the country, they are the ones who set the rules for you, because whoever taught them whatever they were told, they keep passing it on. But now for people who are just coming into the country, or who are just wondering, how can I go about this? It's platforms like yourselves come where you can just go and ask for advice. I mean, I benefited from that because I went on Google, where can I get support? And I was able to be referred to Citizens Advice. And then some of the things, even in terms of my business, I've taught myself through online, just going, researching, how does the law work? What are the things I can avoid running a business and all that? And sometimes it's even things that we grew up doing that we kind of not understand what the law is in a different country. So things like that people end up getting in trouble, and then they misinterpret it as people are being racist or people, but we forgot or we overlooked certain things. Knowledge is key. So always have access. There's always access to that information, and get hold of that information and continue to learn. Another thing for me is, be unstoppable. For me, I always say there's always an answer somewhere. So just because the first person said no, the first person said you can't do it, you don't just give up. You have to keep going and keep going and keep going. You find that eventually the doors will open. There's something about us, the Black people. We want success overnight, but it's also about fighting, and then until that door opens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great. It's really good to know as well that you sort of benefited from Citizens Advice Services. As you say, we are out there to help people And particularly, what we are definitely here to help people who are potentially facing discrimination or facing barriers in, like, if they're on a journey, if they're facing discrimination, to come to us and see how we can help with that. That is part of one of the many services that we offer. But yeah, I think that really great advice there in terms of, just that, I guess, as you have done yourself, sort of continue to be tenacious, don't stop pushing, don't sort of stop sort of fighting for what you believe in. So I think obviously this is really beneficial. I think obviously that's people we've talked about, sort of people in your situation, other people who might be sort of trying to find their way, and advice for them. But I guess from your perspective, also, like from sort of, it's quite a big question. So but like, as a society, I guess, like what more can people do to be allies and be supportive on your journey? Like, what is there anything that people could have done more to help you, that you would have liked to see sort of from society? That is quite a big question. But
that's a good question. I think just giving people a chance. Give people a chance. Don't just write people off, or just because there's a certain barrier. Like, one of the things I find, which I mentioned, is language. So if even someone is trying to communicate something and the society are not understanding, that's why we have interpreters. I'm sure you have interpreters in your area, even at a click of service, just looking for a certain language who can interpret, because you find that someone has got a great idea. We're all working together. We are part of the community. We are part of the society. So everyone has a role to play. But sometimes I find that people give up easily, or they just not interested because they think, I can't understand what this person is saying.
Yeah.
But also be willing to learn and just work together, because I find it's like cliques, having cliques that, people from, they should be in this area or they should be in groups. But inclusion, when you all come together and just do things together, it does help. It really makes a big difference. Yeah. Hope I've answered the question.
Thank you. That's, like I say, it was quite a big question to sort of put you on the spot with. So wonderful Remy is watching on Facebook herself, and she has said that you've got a really inspiring story, and it's really great to see how you've got past your barriers, especially those sorts of situations where people ask you who the manager is, like when you're the owner and that kind of. And she sort of says, like, how do you handle those kind of situations? What, I guess, is it a continual just repetition of the facts, or how do you kind of, do you use those as almost opportunities to try and educate in that way, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that one is a how can I say, it's an interesting thing, really, because when I come across such situations, you can see sometimes you can see the disappointment on their faces, because I don't know what else they were expecting. Obviously they were expecting, they had their own image, but at the same time as well, it's an eye opener. That's when I've had people admitting that, oh my God, we shouldn't judge. We shouldn't have a certain expectation. Sometimes, I had a bride apologizing to me because on her wedding day, I had not met her. It was a mother-in-law who did the whole booking and all that. So on the wedding day, she kept pushing me around. And I was just smiling throughout. Until later on, she found out that's Ruth, or the owner of Ruth Super Kitchen. And she was on the phone next day apologizing. I'm like, come on, just enjoy your honeymoon. It's fine. I was even happy that she did that to me than doing it to one of my staff, because I don't know how any of the staff would have handled it. So the education there just happens naturally. And sometimes I try to plan meetings ahead to avoid scenarios like that on the day. But for me, the issue is not being treated differently because I'm the owner, but just people being treated fairly because we are human beings. not because if I turned up to be a white British owner, then I should be treated differently or I should be respected. I'm a person providing the services, you're getting the services. Let's just treat each other regardless of skin color. So it's an ongoing thing. Sometimes it's even just introducing myself the way I introduce myself, just to say, you know, when we are having a chat, I'm originally from this, I'm running it, you know, the way I did here. Then when I say I'm from Malawi, they kind of know, okay, this is their expectation. But it doesn't change anything most of the time, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Thank you very much.
Mm.
I mean, it's the bulk of the questions that I had for you. I guess before we go, and I think, is there anything else that you would like to say, either sort of on the topic of Black History Month, or kind of, is there anything more you'd like to share with us?
I think I've shared, there's a lot to share, but I just think much as we always celebrate Black History Month around October, but I think most of these conversations should keep going on in organizations, especially big organizations like yours. I don't know how the team is like. It's also important that when people walk in, they see that, you know, there's inclusion. Because even if as a person I'm coming to seek help, I want advice from an organization, even people coming to work, say in my business, when they see that there's only one group of people, you kind of think, am I safe here? So that type of, you know, inclusion is so important. Every now and then in team meetings, bring these people up. How can we support you? Don't even wait until someone asks to say, oh, I feel like my team members are bullying me. I feel like my team members, they're always sidelining me when it comes to decision. Even those who are in leadership roles, just to take an initiative, not to wait until October, but to say, how can we support you? How do you feel we can make a difference? You'll be surprised when that question is put across, how people open up. Because they don't want to be seen as, well, there's that fear one, and then again, they don't want to be seen as they are always complaining. But even going back to the question you asked earlier, the society, how can we help? As companies, as organizations, how can we help? So ask questions how you can help those people, how you can help the Black people, the Black community, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're so right. I think it's always really important. I think that it's a sort of constant focus, as you say. It shouldn't become a conversation only when there's a problem. We should always be looking to, how can we make this a positive place to work, but also, you know, from our perspective, how do we make it a welcoming place for people who are coming to seek our support? How do we make people feel safe with us? And yeah, I think that's really wonderful. Thank you. I'm also just going to pop up a little banner at the bottom of the page there to sort of show off your Facebook page, and if people want to find you and want to learn more about Ruth's Super Kitchen and how they can maybe use your services and kind of think about you, I take it, I'm guessing you sort of cater big events, or do you know, what sort of work does Ruth's Super Kitchen do that people could use you for?
Oh yeah, we cater for weddings, big events, smaller events, anything, takeaways, and we're just embarking on a new project now, which is launching next week in the Oldham community area. But the launch, everyone is welcome. So even if you're free, feel free to come. I mean, this is where we're talking about working together as a team. We're going to do a cook, chop, and chat session where we're all learning about nutrition. We are learning about the crisis now, everything is going up. How do we eat on a budget? How do we cook healthier meals but on a low budget? Things like that. So everyone coming together. It's not like a Black African or just one group of people. We've got all sorts of people in our community. Everyone is welcome, and people are registering. The flyer went out last week. Everyone is excited to come and be part of this exciting session. So even it's good for people who are thinking, I want to start a small business, but learning the skills and all that. So That's it.
Wonderful. Well, there you go. There's a lot of people should call by and take part in that session, I guess, even if, like you say, if it's not about the food, they want to like learn from you and sort of have a good chat with you.
Just making friendships. I mean, mental health is on the rise. So just having people talk about, even mothers talking about the challenges we meet as mothers, anything. It's the great conversations happen around food. That's what I've discovered. So we just want people not to feel isolated, not to feel alone. It's not just about food alone, but it's just helping one another. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ruth. You really are such a wonderful an inspirational person, and thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for bearing with us throughout all of the technical issues.
That's all right.
And yeah, we can highly recommend that people like check out Ruth's Facebook page. There, we'll pop the link underneath just so that people can go directly to it as well. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Everybody else, our next live stream is next Tuesday. We're going to be joined by Nesta talking about their money saving boiler challenge. So obviously Ruth referenced the cost of living crisis there. We know energy prices are a big part of that. So join us on Tuesday. But again, thank you so much, Ruth. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.